exclusive chat with ENIL's Managing Director and CEO Prashant Pandey. This is right inside the Radio Mirchi studio where they're talking about making a huge digital play with Mirchi Plus. He also spoke about growing their MAUs as well as plans to expand. Listen in.
Again, because the advertising is mostly retail, remember it's not just about when retail establishments open up and they start spending money. In the case of retail, they're very watchful about where they spend money, right? Unlike big brands who can always pass it off as brand building exercises, retail outlets want immediate return, right? Immediate bang for the buck. So all of CY21, they were like watching the scenario unfold. And even in periods of time when the COVID was receding, they were a little careful with their purchasings. In CY22, which is the current year, things have started to open up, right? And in the last 6 months, we've seen that the business has now started to come back to earlier days. The sentiment is certainly very bullish. The number of ads we are getting is even higher than we were getting in the 2019-20 period of time. So I would like to say that, I think the business is now back on its feet. And if not in CY22, I think by the end of CY23, we should have recovered all the lost ground.
By the end of CY23. Okay. So just to understand the overall, how the ad revenues work for a radio business, it's FCT, the free commercial time, right? And non-FCT revenue. So for you guys, how exactly does that work?
So first, let me explain that the FCT is, or what we call free commercial time, there's nothing free about it. It's just a legacy from the past. In the old Doordarshan days, it was just called free for whatever reason. So yes, there is basically advertising on air, right? Which is the normal inventory that a radio station offers to advertisers. And for most radio advertisers, that's like 90% or 95% of their revenue. In the case of ENIL, almost 15 years ago, we actually started thinking of different ways of generating revenue. And one of the products that we created then, and which actually has got a lot of tailwind today, is what we call the solutions business.
Yes.
Now, in the solutions business, look at what we're doing. We're actually going a step beyond merely offering ad inventory, right? Because when you offer ad inventory, then it's the advertiser's risk, because if they don't get returns, then too bad. But we have sold the inventory to them, right? Or we've sold the listenership to them. In solutions, we actually ask them, listen, what's the marketing challenge you have, right? And let's say if you are in the city of Indore and you have a challenge that I'm not getting business in the afternoons, let's say, and all my business comes in only in the evenings, then we will develop a solution for you which will try and get more footfalls into your store in the afternoons.
Got it.
Now, clearly that can't happen only with advertising, right? It can't happen only with radio advertising. So what we would do then is we would probably do some on-ground activation in neighborhood societies, or we would do a promotion which runs in your store in the afternoon, or we would do some digital campaign featuring some RJ of ours. So it's a bunch of products that we will use, including radio, of course, to get the results for you. So this is broadly the solution business.
Okay.
Now the solution business is growing very rapidly. And the reason is very simple. You see, economically when things are not very good, advertisers say that if I put money, can you work harder to give me results?
Yeah.
Right? Rather than just palming off your inventory to me. So the solution business basically does that. So for us, about 2/3 of our revenues is pure advertising, and 1/3 of our business comes from solutions. But really speaking, we would like to reverse that.
Yeah.
And I've said that in the past that by hopefully in another couple of years' time, we should at least hit 50-50.
Let's now talk about your financials in terms of where you see your EBITDA margins headed. Given that you did speak about ad revenue growth still taking time to pick up to go back to those pre-COVID levels, what's the outlook in terms of operational performance for ENIL?
So one of the really good things that happened to us during the COVID period of time is that we were forced to become slim.
Yeah.
Or to slim down.
Cost controls. And you guys have been looking at a lot of cost efficiency.
Absolutely. And let me give you a dimension of that, right? So let's say my operating costs were 300 crores in a year, rupees in a year. We brought it down to 200 crores. We shaved off 100 crores from our annual operating costs. That's like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Now, remember also, I just mentioned to you that the revenues will not climb back to pre-COVID levels until next year.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because even with lesser revenues, because my costs are actually far lower, I can still deliver a better EBITDA. So I'm far more optimistic about EBITDA recovery happening maybe in FY23 itself, even if revenue recovery happens in FY24.
Okay.
So I think we are very bullish on the bottom line side.
Okay. And you were talking about the solutions business and the radio business. So what is going to be the overall performance? When are you seeing a pickup? Have things stabilized?
So the solution business is a very strong business because it actually says that let's put the client in the middle, right? And ask the client what their problems are and find a solution to it. So it's a very strong product. But within solutions, there are a couple of products that we have, like concerts or like activations on ground, right? Those were not happening for 2 years because of the lockdowns and no permissions being forthcoming. Those permissions are now starting to come, and those are actually again coming back into our portfolio. And I think, therefore, that the solution business will stage a very smart recovery in the next 12 months and in the next 24 months.
What kind of growth, like a double digit?
Normally, see, I mentioned to you that I expect that my 1/3 share of solutions will grow to 1/2 in 2 years' time. So that should tell you that the solution business will grow far faster than the radio business. I mean, I think that the solution business can grow at 25–27% CAGR for the next 3 years.
Okay. International business as well. What's the overall revenue pie? Which are some of the countries that you guys are present in? Looking at growing your digital presence there?
So international markets, basically our strategy is very simple. We are tracking Indian audiences. And wherever you have people of Indian origin living, and wherever the market opportunity exists, we enter that country. So the country that we entered the first, of course, was the US. Actually, we entered the UAE about 9–10 years ago. But that was a brand licensing agreement. In other words, we gave them the brand to use, and we then allowed them to use, and they gave us a certain fee to use. But we didn't run the operation ourselves. The first country where we actually entered and ran the operation ourselves was in New Jersey in the US. That was in 2019, right? Before the COVID and all that. And our experience in New Jersey has been very, very good. We have made profits over there, and we look at that business growing. But expansion in international markets depends also on the availability of the frequency.
Right.
So since 2019, we have expanded into Dallas, we have expanded into San Francisco in the US, and we've also expanded into Bahrain, and we've also expanded into Qatar. And in the meantime, the operation that we had with Abu Dhabi, now that has transformed, and we've now got an operation in Dubai. So today we are present in Dubai, we are present in Qatar, we are present in Bahrain, and we are present in the United States. Now that's the terrestrial radio part, which depends on frequencies being available. But the beauty with Mirchi Plus is that it doesn't need any licenses, and wherever you want to launch, you can launch. So
and the international launch of Mirchi Plus was first in overseas,
That's right. So the international launch happened first in the US, and look at the product innovation in the US. In the US, let's say you've moved from Chandigarh and you've migrated to the US somewhere, and you feel like staying in touch with Chandigarh. Well, Mirchi Chandigarh station is available in the US on the app.
Got it.
Right? And it's time shifted, so you're not listening to a stale product. You're actually listening to a product time shifted to suit your time requirement.
Got it. Oh, wow.
So yes, you're right. So the Mirchi Plus is now the new tool for our international expansion, and we'll be emphasizing lesser and lesser terrestrial expansion and more on Mirchi Plus.
So as of now, 63 stations, 73 cities. What's the game plan in order to expand further for ENIL?
Well, honestly, I don't think that we will expand this physical network all that much. Sure, there are some gaps in our network. And if there are opportunities available through M&A, we may try and acquire. But our bigger expansion is going to be in the form of the Mirchi Plus app. And maybe today we are reaching under 1 million monthly users, but that's just in the first 2 or 3 months. I think that the market opportunity is 1 billion Indians. And if nothing, we should definitely try and go to at least 200 odd million users in either the video product or on the Mirchi app or on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever. All put together, the digital footprint of Mirchi should become 200–250 million in the next 3 or 4 years' time. That's the immediate milestone that we've got.
That's the target on the cards. And you were talking about that ad revenue thing, and I just want to get back to it, because for the industry as a whole, we have seen that recovery kicking in about 14% Jan to the month of May 2022. So for you, when are you seeing an incremental pickup in ad revenue growth, and what is it that you guys are looking at by way of numbers?
The advertising in the radio business has shot up far faster than this, actually, because don't forget that we're also fallen a lot more, right? So from a much lower base, obviously the recovery is faster. So our recovery has been far faster. Between January and May, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers often, but if you see our numbers, I mean, at least on a year-on-year basis, we've been growing at more than 100%. And so that is on a base effect, right? But revenues will go back to pre-pandemic levels next year. But advertising volumes have already gone back, which means that the number of advertisers who are advertising, the amount of money, the amount of secondage they're putting on the channels, that has already gone up. Pricing took a beating during the COVID days. So price recovery may take a couple of years longer. So it's a bit of a mix of
Okay.
fortunes. Volumes are doing great. Pricing is still down. I think the client product, which is the revenues, will take until FY23 or FY24 to completely recover.
Got it. Prashant, just to get back to digital, because it is an expensive proposition, but I understand that the company doesn't want to go very aggressive. I read somewhere that the plan is not to be a unicorn, but to be a camel in terms of the, advertising and marketing spends. So
Right.
what's the strategy on spending while reining in your costs?
Well, let me tell you that in the last 4 or 5 months, as the funding freeze, as they call it, has happened in the digital business, I think the theory that we have been working on has actually been proven to be very prescient, right? Because what is it that we're saying? We're saying that in a consumer business, right, it's very easy to buy your MAUs, right? You spend money on performance marketing and you can get a lot of users to come to your app. But it's a temporary phenomenon because they don't like your product or something, they go back. Then you spend again and try and get a fresh bunch of people to come and try your app, and then they go back again. So it's a never-ending kind of a situation, exceedingly expensive. It doesn't help the business at all, and it doesn't get you your loyal users.
Right.
Now, what we have said is that we, on the other hand, will depend heavily on the quality of our app, which is the user experience, the quality of the content, which is what our strength has been in 20 years, right? And we will pull in users organically, meaning people will come by word of mouth. Somebody talks about the story to somebody else, and then that other person comes, and that's how the usership actually picks up. Now, this is slow, but it's more sustainable. And that's why it's called the Camel Strategy, because it's not like running at the speed of a unicorn, which is useless, but it's at least far more sustainable and reliable. And think of it like this, for a company like ENIL, which has so much money on its books, right? We've got 200 crore rupees of cash in our books. We should be generating 100 crores of cash every year. And what is it that any digital platform requires? It requires proper funding, right? So when we do it in this manner, we are able to ensure that for many years, and that's why I mentioned to you, it's a long haul game. We will continue to fund Mirchi Plus, and we will continue to invest in content and take it forward.
So what are you going to do with that cash on books right now? These are the plans, right, that you have slated going forward? Okay, fine. Now,
there's one more thing I would like to add on. In terms of what we do with the cash. See, remember, digital strategy is not all inside of ENIL. A large number of things that we are interested in doing, it's best done on the outside. So there are, individual promoters outside, there are businesses outside, there are startups outside in the areas that we are interested in, right? We will certainly deploy some of our cash in strategic investments in some of these startups outside, but very close to the Mirchi business, very close to the Mirchi brand.
Okay. And you were discussing at the start when I came in that you guys had started out in 2001, was it? And look what a long way you've come and how the business has grown and sustained. So what's going to be the next milestone?
Well, I think the next milestone will have to come from the digital side. I think Mirchi Plus, for Mirchi Plus, every milestone.
What's the current contribution of it to your overall revenue pie?
Well, Mirchi Plus, we're not.
No, just digital.
Digital contributes out of 100% revenues. Digital contributes about 10%.
And then you plan to go up to about 25%.
That's right. So this 10% will go up to 25%, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years. But right now, as we speak, Mirchi Plus is not open to advertising because we are building the product and we're offering great content right now. So that's the plan.
And when will it be open to?
Hopefully, either at the beginning of the next calendar year or at the beginning of the next financial year. And we want enough quantity of work, of good creative content to be on the app before we open it up for advertising in India and subscriptions abroad.
Okay.